and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my September wrap up. I read 9 books in September. I am so proud of myself. I'm so happy with my reading month. I read a lot. I read a lot of really good books. I think September is my most read month of the year so far, which is awesome. And I read 8 physical books and I listened to 1 audiobook. And I also hit my reading goal of 50 books. I have officially read 50 books and I'm very happy that I finally hit that. I'm hoping to read 60 to 70 before the end of the year, but I'm happy that I at least read 50 books. So let's get into the wrap up. I have a lot to discuss. So I started off the month pretty strong with Nocturne by Karina Halle. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It's 1947 in Los Angeles. Lena Reed's best friend has died. The press is calling her the Black Dahlia. Lena just wants answers on who killed her best friend. Victor Callahan is an ex-boxer turned PI who is trying to uncover what happened, but he's suddenly blacking out and not remembering things, but he can't stay away from Lena. Can they try to find the murderer and solve whatever is happening to Victor? This is also a vampire romance. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a very refreshing and unique take on vampires, and the whole paranormal setting was very interesting. I think Karina Halle did such a great job with the setting. It did really feel like it was 1947. The mystery aspect was so well done. This book was just very intriguing. I did really like Lena and Victor, and I think the only thing that really lacked in this book for me is the romance aspect. I wasn't super in love with the characters and their romance. I did like them, but I wasn't that emotionally attached to them. And I will say there is one scene in this book that is very questionable with consent. I will say it's kind of like dubious consent, I guess. That scene did make me feel a little uncomfortable just because it's kind of like compulsion, and I don't know how I feel about that one scene. And then later on it's revealed to be something more, which is also kind of weird. I'm trying to be super vague, but also try to explain my feelings. The end was very action-packed and intense. I just thought this was a great book and definitely something unique and different, and I highly recommend it. This is one of my favorite books of the year so far. Then I decided to go ahead and read Grave Matter by Karina Halle, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm kind of conflicted on my rating a little bit. Aspiring mycologist Sydney gets the opportunity to work with the Madrona Foundation, which are doing promising Alzheimer's research on an isolated lodge hidden away in a remote, fog-shrouded inlet on Vancouver Island. But strange things start happening, things she can't explain. Everyone is hiding secrets from Sydney, including the resident psychologist she is falling in love with. I enjoyed the atmosphere and the vibe of this book and the overall plot and the storytelling. The romance really lacked for me in this one. I just wasn't into the romance really. I felt like there needed to be more of a build on the romance. There is kind of like a plot twist in this book, but for some reason it didn't really shock me. I didn't see it coming, but I wasn't shocked. And I feel like maybe that's why this book just doesn't really stand on its own without that plot twist. This is definitely a great book to read around the spooky season. It had the atmosphere and the vibe. It was very creepy, very mysterious. I, was trying to figure out what was going on and what was happening. Why was everybody very secretive? The characters were all different and interesting, and it is crazy how everything just unfolded and what happened. I kind of find it unbelievable in a way, if that makes sense. I just thought I would enjoy this a little bit more, so I had higher expectations, I guess. But I mean, it was still a really good read. I just didn't love it as much as Nocturne. Then I read A Wild Card by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th and final book in the Rose Hill series. This I gave 2 out of 5 stars. Bash and Gwen have a meet cute in an airport. Almost a year later, they meet again, but at Bash's estranged son's birthday party, but she's his girlfriend. I read the first book in this series, and then I read the 3rd book. I wasn't interested in the 2nd book, and I was really excited for this one because we got kind of a little bit of a preview in the 3rd book, and I was definitely really intrigued. I love the ex-boyfriend's dad trope. I think it's really fun. I was very disappointed with this book. I honestly think it's a fluke that I really enjoyed Reckless and Hopeless. I just think Elsie Silver is not the author for me, and I know I keep trying to read her books, but I genuinely think her books are so boring. They just feel like carbon copies of each other. Like nothing is super special or different about her books. They just feel kind of like the same thing over and over again. I didn't feel like the characters had chemistry. The story itself was just very bland. I don't understand how Bash is almost 40 years old and so immature, and Gwen is a lot younger than him. There is an age gap, and she is so much more mature and like emotionally intelligent. It's kind of crazy, like how she goes from his son to the father, and the maturity level is like the same. It's kind of weird. I liked Clyde, but honestly, I felt like he was just kind of a plot device. It was just kind of the reason for Bash and Gwen to like live together, which was kind of strange. I did get a little emotional towards the end, the climax of the story a little bit. I was a little emotional. Also, I will say the plot with Bash's son, I wish it was developed more. Like, he was not a single dad. Like, this whole series is supposed to be about single dads, and Bash was not a dad whatsoever. I wish Elsie Silver took time to build more of that relationship. But I mean, this book was really fast paced and I couldn't stop reading. I definitely read it very, very, very fast, but it was so boring and just not interesting at all. Then I read my first 5-star read of the year, and that is Burn Bright by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the first book in the Cobalt Empire series, and this I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Ben Cobalt, number 6 in the family, often struggles to fit in within his own family, but his brothers convince him to transfer to Manhattan Valley University and move in with them. Living with his brothers while dealing with a major secret is a disaster waiting to happen. Ben turns to an unlikely source for help. Harriet Fisher, a grumpy punk rock girl with a troubled past who has already pissed off another Cobalt. I honestly, I had to type all my notes because I had so much to write about. Like, I genuinely had all those notes. I loved this book so much. I have read the entire Addicted series back in 2014, and I love that series very much. It is very near and dear to my heart, and I read the first 3 books in the Leica series, but I didn't really like the direction that the series was going in, so I didn't continue it. I decided to pick this up, and I was really nervous because, like I said, I didn't like where the Us series was going, so I was very hesitant to get back into this world and to trust these authors again. But I just absolutely devoured this book. I loved it so much. I wish I would have taken more of my time with it because so much happens in this book. It is 600 pages and a lot goes down. I wish I would have taken more of my time and annotated stuff, but I loved every minute of this. This is definitely a character-driven story. It is truly just about Ben and Harriet figuring out their relationship and Harriet finding her place within the Cobalt family. And I absolutely loved that. I love just how family orientated the Cobalts are and how they are always there for each other, and there's so many of them. It's hard to keep track of them all and remember who is who. I am glad that there is a character list here, because then you can remember who's the oldest and who's the youngest, because sometimes it gets a little confusing. I really liked Ben and Harriet. I liked them separately as characters. I feel like you really get to know Harriet, and at first you kind of think that she's this very closed off kind of mean girl a little bit, but then you see her softer side and you really just get to see all sides of her, and I really liked her as a character, and I loved Ben. He was so interesting, and I felt so bad for him all the time because he just wanted the best for his family. I really liked the mental health representation in this book and how everything kind of unfolds, I guess. I think it's really interesting. I obviously don't want to spoil things for you guys, so I'm kind of trying to be vague. We also got to see a little bit of Rose and Connor in here, which I loved. I love them so much. They're just still the same characters, and I love that. And it was nice to see them bond with their children. And we also got to see some of the Hale kids and the Meadow kids, sort of. This book just felt so much like the early Addicted books, which I love. Like it just felt very reminiscent of that time and that era for me. And I just couldn't help but fall in love with this book. And at first I had given it 4 stars, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. So it's like, this needs to be 5-star, which is kind of crazy. And I'm very nervous to see how I'm going to feel about the next books, but I cannot wait for the next ones. I'm genuinely so excited to read about all of the romances. I don't know if Audrey is going to get her own romance, but I'm excited for hers whenever that happens. And Charlie. I'm very excited for Charlie's romance. I cannot wait for his book, but in general, I'm so excited to read more about these characters and this family, and I can't wait to see all of the love interests. I just really loved this, and I can't wait for more. Then I had another 5-star read right after that one, which was kind of crazy, and that is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. A mysterious woman washes ashore Shearwater, a tiny island not far from Antarctica, and is greeted by an equally mysterious family who reside on Shearwater. This I loved so much. I gave this initially 4.5 out of 5 stars just because I was angry with the end. And then I couldn't stop thinking about this book, so I was like, I need to be real and I just need to give this book 5 stars. This book is very short, so I think it's best going into it not knowing very much. But I loved the writing. I really loved the characters. I love the way that this story was told overall. It was slowly giving you details about their lives and unraveling everything that was currently happening. And I just loved the characters. I really grew to love them and appreciate each of them for their own uniqueness, I guess. I could also really feel the atmosphere and the vibe of this book. It did really feel like a remote island in the middle of nowhere, and you could feel how isolated it was. I also really loved all the different POVs. You got to see all of the POVs from the characters, which I thought was great. And I felt like each POV had a point to the story, if that makes sense. I feel like if you love nature and you love animals and you care about climate change, this book will hit a little bit harder for you. If you don't care about those things, you probably won't care about this book, to be quite honest. But I found it very impactful, and it kind of reminded me why I would love to live in the middle of nowhere and why I don't like to eat a lot of meat. I know that's super random, but this book just gave me another appreciation for nature and animals and all of that. I really grew to love the family and appreciate them and just care for them so deeply, and I was so upset with the ending. Not going to say anything else. It was just very upsetting, and it's really not fair. It was just a beautiful, heartbreaking book, and I really loved it, and I'm very happy that I read it. And it was definitely different for me because, you know, I am mainly a romance reader, but I think once in a while these type of books are really great palate cleansers, and I really loved this. I cannot stop thinking about specific scenes in here. It was just very impactful. Then I read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I actually listened to the audiobook, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Elizabeth, an orphan who grew up in the great libraries, dreaming of becoming a warden, a protector of the great libraries. However, when Elizabeth's mentor is murdered, she becomes the prime suspect. But Elizabeth knows something bigger is at play. She eventually convinces Nathaniel, a sorcerer, to help her uncover what is really going on. This is a young adult fantasy, and like I said, I listened to the audiobook, which the audiobook was great. I really enjoyed it. Overall, I really enjoyed this story. I just wasn't super emotionally attached to the characters, but overall, I really enjoyed the story. This book was fun, but also kind of sad at times. Like, it definitely had a heavier undertone. I really liked Elizabeth. She was so strong and brave. She was a great character. And I liked Nathaniel. He was a great character. He was a little broken and sad, but I felt like him and Elizabeth could relate on a lot of things. And I really liked seeing their small romance develop. I thought it was great. This book was very cozy, but also adventurous. I liked the magic system, and I liked the libraries. Like they were basically like these books coming to life, which I thought was really fun. I liked how Nathaniel, Elizabeth, and Silas were like this little family. I really liked that. And there's definitely like some sad parts in here, but I really like how the end was like very hopeful. It was just an entertaining book, but I also feel like it's kind of forgettable. But I am glad it was a standalone. I feel like this really works as a standalone, and the audiobook was great. Then we have Falling Like Leaves by Misty Wilson. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. A autumnal teen rom-com about a city girl stuck in a quaint small town who must confront her future and her old flame while the town prepares for an annual fall festival. This was cute, definitely very young adult. It was fast-paced, but kind of forgettable. Ellis and Cooper were cute characters. I really liked their cute little romance, and I really could understand why Ellis was acting the way that she acted because of, you know, just everything going on in her life. She felt very much like a teenager, and she was just trying to figure things out. The fall vibes were great. I definitely could feel like it was the fall, and it was very exciting as they got the town ready for the festival and stuff. It was very atmospheric, and like you could feel that it was fall. And the author did such a great job with describing, you know, the small town and everything that was happening. It made me want to be in a small town celebrating fall. I liked all the other characters, like Ellis's cousin, and then the one like guy friend that she made, and her aunt and her mom were great. There were also like at least 5 Taylor Swift references in this book. This book is pretty short. It was a little too much for my liking. I dislike when there's a lot of pop culture references, but again, this is young adult. I'm not the main target, so I'm not going to hold it against this book. It was just a cute little fall romance. Then I read In the Veins of the Drowning by Kaylee Cassidy. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Imogen Nell is in hiding from a king and his captain who viciously hunt her kind. When a neighboring king comes to visit, Imogen can no longer hide. He knows precisely what she is, and he believes she can save their kingdoms from an even greater monster. This I did like. I found it very interesting and unique. The like magic system and the siren aspect was definitely different. I think I was in a little bit of a slump when I first started this, and I was just trying to finish it. So I don't know if I was in the right mood to read this, but I really liked the characters. I feel like there is a strong romance in here. So if you want a romance, this is great. I will say the romance was a little too insta-love and fast-paced for me personally, just because I felt like the characters didn't really know each other that much. But there's like something that is kind of forcing them to be together, if that makes sense. You'll have to read the book to understand. But the story overall was very fast-paced, very entertaining. I feel like there was action happening from the beginning. And I appreciate that this book wasn't super long and didn't drag on. Like, there was constant action happening. Like, stuff was going down all of the time, which I appreciate. I'm so used to a lot of romanticises that are kind of slow and boring and like, you know, have a lot of world building. This had world building, but as things were happening, and I really liked that aspect. I really liked Imogen. I thought she was a fantastic heroine. I really liked seeing her at the beginning of this book, and then towards the end, there was some great development happening throughout that. It was very interesting. I know I keep saying that word, but like genuinely, this was a very different romantasy. I liked the love interest, but I feel like the romance aspect just wasn't completely there for me. I am intrigued to read the second book, but I'm not sure if I want to yet. We'll see. I'm going to think about the sequel, but yeah, I think this is a great romantasy. I feel like a majority of people would probably really enjoy this. I think I was just kind of in a slump. Then I read Alchemized by Senlin Yu. And this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I haven't written it in my reading journal yet, so I'm just going to read a little bit of the description on Goodreads. In this riveting dark fantasy debut, a woman with missing memories fights to survive a war-torn world of necromancy and alchemy, and the man tasked with unearthing the deepest secrets of her past. This is a 1,000-page book. It is very heavy and it is very long, and I did give it 4 stars. I wasn't super in love with this, but I did enjoy it. I feel like genuinely the first 200 pages was very boring. I would say maybe like around 180, maybe like 160. I was kind of vibing with the story more, but the first at least 150 pages I found to be very boring, and I also found it to be very info dumping a little bit. I wish there was a definitions page at the end of this book, because there were so many words that were like similar to each other, and then I couldn't figure out necessarily what the difference was. Like some of the wording was a little confusing regarding like the magic system in the world. It was a little confusing at times. I also don't know if I was in the right mood to read this at the time either, because I was just trying to like get through it because it's such a big book. I wasn't super in love with the characters. I really did like Helena. Is it Helena or Helena? I'm not sure, but I really liked her as a female character. I think she is so incredibly strong and brave, and just everything she went through was crazy. She was just so selfless. So selfless. I wasn't like super in love with the romance. There's like a small romance like subplot kind of. I mean, it does kind of become a major part of the plot, but I wasn't super in love with it. I feel like I rushed through this book, to be quite honest, because I didn't want to get spoiled. I was so scared that I was going to get spoiled, that somebody was going to spoil it for me, and I just tried to read it as fast as I could so I wasn't spoiled. And so I think I didn't savor it as much as I should have. I feel like I could reread this in a few years and appreciate it more, but it's definitely dark. It's definitely heavy, but honestly, I expected it to be darker than it was, to be honest. I know everybody says like, oh, it's so dark. It's so dark. And as a dark romance reader, it wasn't as dark as I expected. I do think it is different than other fantasies or romanticises, I guess. I don't know. I don't really classify this as much as a romance as a fantasy, because the story is more driven with the fantasy aspect. Helena is such a great character, and I can't believe she went through everything that she went through. And I was really scared for the ending. I also did not cry. I had seen a couple of like video reviews and everybody said like they cried. And I was like, I did not cry. I did not shed a single tear, and that's why I didn't feel like I was super emotionally attached to the book or the characters, because I didn't cry. Like I was kind of emotional towards the end, but I kept waiting for something to happen. Like I kept waiting for something more intense and like sad to happen. Like obviously there are sad things that happen in this book. I'm not saying that, but I just thought there was going to be more. I thought I was going to be more emotionally affected, and I wasn't. I don't know. I just had really, really, really high hopes for this book, and I was kind of let down a little bit. I don't think it's the author's fault. I think genuinely I just hyped it up a lot in my mind, and everybody else was hyping it up, and everybody was so excited. And I thought, you know, this was going to be a 5-star read for me. And I feel like maybe if I reread it in a couple of years, it could be a 5-star, but I wasn't that in love with it. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I think it's a solid fantasy story, but overall I wasn't as in love as I hoped. This book is done in like 3 parts. So you have like part 1, then you have part 2 and part 3. And honestly, part 2 definitely could have been a lot shorter. It did not need to be that long. I feel like this book could have been 800 pages and still would have been as impactful. I think the middle part definitely kind of dragged and was very repetitive. I understand that everything happening in part 2 was kind of a build on Helena and her love interest's romance, like trying to build that relationship up. I understand that, but I think it definitely could have been a lot shorter. Like this book could have been 800 pages. It didn't need to be this long. I did really like the ending though. I thought that was really cute and sweet. And yeah, I feel bad for Helena and everything that she went through. It was intense, but it felt so realistic in a way. Unfortunately, it felt like, you know, what happens in war and how people are affected. And yeah, it was intense and dark, but I didn't love it as much as I had hoped, which was unfortunate. But I don't know, maybe in a few years I'll reread this and love it more. I don't know. So those were all 9 books that I read in September. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think about them, or let me know what books you read in September. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.